copyrighted or was written back in 1990. And he says the problem with the world today is a lack of true knowledge about God. This is very true. If you have a lack of knowledge of God, if you don't, and when you know yourself, you know God, but all of us don't know either. And we got a wrong conception of who God is. We think that God is out in space somewhere, out in the clouds somewhere. That's not the reality of God. That's what we learned, throughout the years, and we learned that in different religious disciplines. We learned that in Christianity, especially in the church, as a lot of us grew up in the church. And even the scriptures don't even teach us that God is somehow out in space somewhere, out in the universe, on a cloud somewhere, and we're going to see him after we die. But even if you read the book of Job, and I believe it's chapter 7, verse 9, it tells you that those who go down in the grave shall come up no more. So there's a contradiction there. If the scripture says that those who go down in the grave shall come up no more, what about the so-called thing about Jesus being raised from the physical dead? So there's a contradiction there. So I want y'all to go and read that. Read Job chapter 7, verse 9. It tells you that he that goeth down in the grave shall come up no more. Now let me get back to this problem that we have because we don't have the true knowledge of God. It says, of all the knowledge that one may have or obtain, the knowledge of God is the greatest and most necessary of all. Now, is that true? I definitely think so. 98% of the people of the earth are without the knowledge of God, the supreme being. Some facts causing this condition of ignorance are, number one, which I just mentioned, looking at the universe, God's creation as we wonder, how did God create this universe and himself? Number two, his creatures are without numbers and unlimited. How is this? And number three, what is true religion? So he gave three questions there. Looking at the universe, which is God's creation, we wonder how did God create this universe and himself. So if God was here first and he's been here all the time, how did he get here? He had to have been self-created if nobody was before him. And then if he was the first one here, if he was the first one ever, as we say he was, they say that God was always here, God was always in existence. Well, how did he get here? He had to have been self-created because there was nobody before him. And if he was self-created, if he was the first one here, ask yourself this question. How did the devil come into the picture? God had to have created the devil.
He needed a lying tongue.
He needed an adversary. He had an adversary. And plus, if you look at the first book of Genesis in the scriptures, which we all have come to know, that's not even God talking. Read the book of Genesis. It tells you in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Is that right?
That's right.
That's not God talking. That's somebody talking in the third person. That's somebody telling the story. So how would they know if they weren't there? If God was the only one there, how would they know? But they tell you, and the pastor and whatnot will tell you, oh, you just got to have faith. You just got to believe. Don't question. But it doesn't agree with history.